It seems like every time there's a slow week in gaming, the very next week is way jam-packed with a lot of news and other weird stuff. We'll jump right into it with a story from Australia.
Last year, Sony released Hotline Miami 2 on the Australian PlayStation Store. That was until last week when Sony suddenly pulled the game from the store and people's accounts, refunding them if they bought the game.
Why would they do this? Well, the game was never supposed to be released in Australia in the first place because it's banned there.
Why was it banned?
As far as I can remember, it's because there's like an implied struggle snuggle scene or something, and Australia hates that stuff. But anyway, welcome to Necro News, the show where we cover the hottest gaming news from the last week. This week, we're going to go over the Halo rebrand, Bloodlines 2, yes, the Pokemon leaks, and a lot more.
Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and turn on notifications to keep up to date with gaming news you might not see anywhere else. When you think of Halo, you probably think of Bungie or Microsoft, not 343 Industries, which is the current dev that's been making the game since Halo 4. And according to Booster, they all suck, so that makes sense.
Well, by God, they are sick of that and have announced that they are changing the name of their company from 343 Industries to Halo Studios. Not that you could read that from this logo alone. What a terrible font.
And with that announcement, they also said they'll be focusing on making a new Halo experience using Unreal Engine 5 instead of the previously used Slipstream engine. They apparently think that this means they'll be able to make a better Halo game, but they did make Cortana evil in one of their games, and even I know that's stupid and I've never played the Halo games.
Well, you did, and you were very good at them as a teenager.
Nah, I was just really annoying with the sticky grenade.
That's true, you were really annoying with that sticky grenade. Anyway, after the name of the rebrand came out, Rebs Gaming, a popular source for all Halo coverage, stated that Halo Infinite 2 was in development using the Slipstream engine, but since the engine was no longer being used, they've cancelled the project. In addition, let me remind you that last year, 343 Studios laid off a whole lot of their staff, including the entire creative team and the campaign team for Halo Infinite. So it's probably a good thing that Infinite 2 isn't happening, since the campaign team alone felt isolated from the rest of the company before being let go unceremoniously.
Honestly, they should probably just stop trying to make Halo games. They do have other IPs they could revive, but what do you guys think? Have you guys enjoyed Halo since Halo 4? Yes, we know about the Pokemon leaks, and yes, there was a lot of information. It was honestly kind of overwhelming. But we tried to find more information that was reported on, and we did manage to find some stuff. So, if you missed out, here's what you need to know.
Central Leak started posting tons of information regarding these leaks on Saturday. We'll start with just the big news. First, there's Project Synapse, which is assumed to be a new Pokemon MMO. At least, there's a file in that project labeled MMO_test that was discovered during the breach, but if anyone did any reading, they would have seen that right under this post, Central updated the information to say that no, there isn't any Pokemon MMO, and that the files they found were completely unrelated to Project Synapse. So that one's already debunked.
There is also information about the next Pokemon generation obtained by the hackers, with Gen 10 being referred to as Gaia. It's being developed on both Nintendo Switch and the Switch 2, which was discovered to be called Codename Ounce, with the two versions being called K and N. Something to note, however, is that while it's being developed for the original Switch, it doesn't mean that it'll be released on the original Switch.
Finally, the source codes and beta builds for Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Black 2 and White 2 were also leaked alongside everything else. Hold up, something else happened. On Sunday, the source code for the upcoming Pokemon Legends Z and A and the unannounced Gen 10 were also announced to have been found, which is fucking hilarious. Okay, back to the video. So, where's the source?
Game Freak has acknowledged that the leak is legitimate. That said, we won't be providing the link to the source as it contains sensitive employee information, and we do encourage people watching to abstain from trying to find it because of it. Doxing is not cool, guys.
But now for the real tea. People fuck Pokemon. It's canon.
Honestly, I think people were more excited for that news rather than future game information.
Also, there's this goober. We were robbed. This next story is a quick one, but one that could have lasting effects in the industry. Genshin Impact's latest update doesn't have any English voice acting at all. At all. For those who want a direct translation instead of localization, this is seen as a win, but we know that's not why they released it this way.
For anyone not in the know, the voice actor strike is going on right now, and they're currently striving for protection against AI sampling of their voices, so the regular VAs for Genshin aren't available.
To quote Hoyoverse, due to recording arrangements, some content in version 5.1 does not have English voiceovers. We sincerely apologize for the inconvenience caused.
Many, and I mean many, Genshin players have been surprisingly apathetic to the sudden change in voice acting. Most players have switched over to the Japanese dub, and found that they prefer it over the English dub.
I am curious though, do you guys think English VA is important in any game? I used to think it wasn't, but I've become someone who enjoys dubs over subs, cause I ain't got time to read. But, well, what about you guys?
I do want to point out though, that if you're someone who prefers the Japanese dub over the English dub, that's still not the original language. If you want the original language, put it in the Chinese dub, you fucking weeb.
Last week, the bigwigs over at Paradox Interactive, which is a fitting name since every successful game they launch is a broken mess, discussed recent blunders and even the upcoming one that everyone, including themselves, expect to flop.
That's not great news since they've had zero luck with their recent releases. Lamplighters League and Star Trek Infinite weren't well received, but the real damage was done with their release of the horribly unoptimized Cities Skylines 2.
If it was just a game that ran like shit, that's one thing, but the game also just wasn't very fun and honestly was way worse than the first game. But that's all context for this week's story, which is actually a bunch of candid comments from the leaders over at Paradox. And I promise you, we're not omitting any context from this, but if you want to read them yourself, as always, the links are in the description.
To start with, Deputy CEO of Paradox said in a rock paper shotgun quote, "Fans right now with a squeezed budget for games have higher expectations and are less accepting that you'll fix things over time. That's our take, which nah, really?"
Gosh, that's crazy. Imagine buying a game and expecting it to be complete. Absolute lunacy.
Complete games mean nothing to these guys. Surviving Mars was a colony builder that was touched by the malign hand of Paradox Publishing, and after they became involved, only mediocre and buggy DLCs for the game were produced, and they were never fixed, being met with only the current radio silence from the devs and Paradox. I just can't win with city builders, can I?
Nope. Anyway, Paradox is also the publisher for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. The sequel has been a long-awaited title since the first game came out in 2004, though that game was also a buggy, unplayable mess, but it did have a cult following and wasn't, you know, developed by the Chinese Room, the guys who created the idea of walking simulators.
Paradox talked about their version of the game this week, and I don't know why, but how they discussed it doesn't leave much room for confidence. In an interview with GameIndustries.biz, Matthias, the deputy CEO, remarked on the developer change. The game had already struggled a bit when this happened, and we didn't do it lightly. It's a high-risk maneuver, but we thought we had a game we could do, but maybe not with the team that we had. And we knew that the Chinese Room, we'd seen some of the stuff that they've done, we thought this could be a good fit. Generally, it's a continuation of the same vision, but they had to make it theirs. It's gonna be shit.
Another short one for you guys, but let's roll back to last year for some recap. EA broke up with their longtime girlfriend, FIFA, because they just couldn't agree on things. Probably because EA was being a dick. But we don't know the details.
What we do know is that FIFA, who usually has a yearly esports contest in the form of FIFA E World Cup, doesn't have a FIFA 2024 game to use for this year's tournament, yet still wants to run a tournament. So, they are doing something I personally think is really cool. And I've never actually heard of a company doing this. Allow me to give you guys a bit of context. For a long time, there were two big football games, EA's FIFA games and Konami's Pro Evolution Soccer. Well, since the breakup, it seems like FIFA has gone to Konami for assistance on this year's esports contest. But instead of using a FIFA game, they are instead using Konami's game eFootball.
It's actually pretty cute though, since these two rivals have set aside their differences for the love of the sport. Having said that though, there's probably a lot of money involved and soccer fans are pretty insane. Our next story isn't about Disco Elysium, but more about the aftermath of the closure of its developer, Zaum. As not one, but 3 studios have sprouted up from the ex-employees of the studio, and it seems like they each have a take on their spiritual successor to the wildly popular game.
I swear, Disco Elysium is like a cult. Every time this game is brought up in some form or fashion, it's like the entire team was completely obsessed with the game. Like it made up their entire being. Like truly, Disco Elysium is the pinnacle of game storytelling. Anyway, the first company is called Dark Math Games with their game XXX Night Shift, which honestly just looks like a direct sequel to Disco Elysium. It's a sci-fi game where you play as a female patrol operative who gets stranded in a ski resort in Antarctica.
Longdew Games is the second company, and while they didn't give a name to their game, they stated that it features a unique psychogeographic game mechanic, which apparently means that every decision reshapes both the world and the characters that inhabit it.
The final studio is called Summer Eternal, and they aren't oblivious to the fact that 3 studios are all promising the next Disco Elysium. In fact, this is a statement from Summer Eternal. We must be living at the dawn of a cultural golden age when, like mushrooms after rain, the companies promising the next Disco Elysium are popping up every hour on the hour. However, often forgotten in this money lust are the creatives themselves. First instrumentalized for the press releases and afterwards underpaid, silenced, bullied, sued, and abused. But it is all of us, the creatives, the workers, the players, who should be holding control over the means of our creation and who should be celebrated on this day. Oh my god!
Truly, they are artistes. Moving on, Summer Eternal seems to be made up of a lot of the team that created what people loved about Disco Elysium, whereas the other studios were created from various staff of Zaum. The big shots in Summer Eternal are listed on the screen here.
Surprisingly, this newest studio didn't actually announce a game. They just opened up their website with a manifesto on how they will create games from now on. Though, joking aside, I'd say fans of Disco Elysium will probably want to keep an eye on Summer Eternal, because they wrote a fucking black on red manifesto on their website that looks like baby's first death to corpse pamphlet, which is the exact vibe I get from any footage I've seen from Disco Elysium. So it's probably exactly the right people to be working on the game.
If you mean posting a manifesto on a site that looks like Zynga, then yes.
This week's Buried Alive Banger, a segment where we cover a game our community doesn't think has had enough attention, comes to us from community member JessMan101 and is called Victory Heat Rally.
VHR is a 3D retro racer in the style of old arcade racing games like Excite Bike, Sega Rally, Outrun, you get it. The game has a cute art style and the animations are really smooth, and it's only $20, so it's absolutely worth it.
Ooh, you're in for a treat.
Welcome to Victory Heat Rally.
Here are the games coming out this week. I guess there's The Quiet Place, the Super Mario, who cares about Nintendo? Unknown 9 Awakening, I've never heard of it, but I'm curious.
And here's our schedule for this week. It's basically me trying to get through Lies of P.
And that's it for this week's Necro News. If you like what we do here and want to stay up to date, subscribe to the channel.
And if you made it all the way to the end of the video, tell us which Pokemon lore disturbed you the most.
Typhlosion, bro. Anyway, a big thank you to all of our channel members. You guys are rad. Thank you so much for supporting us. Everyone, if you would like to become a member, you can do that over here.
That's all we have for this week, so until next time, goodbye.